guys, in this hair tutorial I'm going to be sharing with you the silk press styling techniques. So the silk press method is a method that we use when we want to create a straight silky finish on our type 3 hair textures and also on our type 4 hair textures. So this will be specifically if someone's got natural hair that is not chemically processed and it's not relaxed to make it straight, and we want to achieve that look on the natural hair texture. So I'm going to be taking you through what products you need to use, how to prepare the hair, and how to actually proceed and do the actual silk press styling. So the first thing I just want to talk through is the products that we're actually going to be using for this method of styling. So my chosen products for demonstrating this tutorial is the Design Essential Silk Press Collection system. That's what I'm going to be using for my model Janelle's hair. So Janelle's hair is a combination texture of a 3C and a little bit of a 4A. She's had heat styling on her hair before, so it has changed a little bit of the texture on her hair. But if we look at her hair from the root area, it will tell us exactly what hair texture she actually has. So she's got a combination of a curl that is on the looser side, and there's a slight texture to it that we get from more the type 4 hair texture. So that's why there's an element of that frizz that you might see more on your type 4 hair texture, or should I say the tightly coiledness that you would see that would make it look more frizzy, even though it's not necessarily that way. So the products I'm going to be using, as I mentioned, is the Design Essential product. Now, when we do this silk press method of styling, the products that are available on the market for us to use usually come in either of a 4-step system or it's going to be a 5-step system, depending on what brand you choose to use. So because I'm going to be using the Design Essential, they actually have a 5-step system. So the first thing in the products is going to be your shampoo and your conditioner. On the product itself, it will say step 1 and step 2. So step 1 is your shampoo and step 2 is going to be your conditioner. Your step 3 product is likely going to be the product that you actually use for the blow drying process. So for the Design Essential brand, they have a blow drying primer that is going to be the step 3 product that will be used on the hair. And then for your step 4 product, you have your actual serum that you would apply during the process of the straightening that we're going to be doing. With the Design Essential, they have 2 options. They have a serum that is more on the clear side, and then they've got a thermal protecting cream, which is essentially similar thing to the serum, but except this one is more on a cream form. So I'll just show that to you now. And this is what it looks like. So these are the shampoo and the conditioner. This is what the packaging looks like, and that's the naming that you find on the packaging itself. It tells us that it's a blow dry and silk press collection. When you're looking for your product, it will actually tell you what it's used for. Most of the time it will mention silk press on the packaging itself. And then we have these 2 products here. This is the main products that I'm going to be using for my blow drying and for my straightening. The reason why I'm not using the blow drying primer is because I want to add more moisture to the hair and allow the straightening process to start straight away during my blow drying process. So personally, as a stylist, having used these products for quite a while, I usually skip the blow drying primer and then I go ahead and use either the clear serum or the thermal protect cream to actually do the blow drying process. For Janelle's hair, I will be combining the 2 of these products here. The thermal cream here, I find that it helps to soften and add a little bit of moisture to the hair, while the weightless thermal protecting serum allows to have that lightweight finish on the hair and also adding that shine that we want to see in the hair. So I generally always combine the 2 when I actually do this method of styling. So those are the main products that I'm actually going to be using for the process of blow drying and the straightening of the hair as well. I will just briefly mention other options of products that you could use for this method of styling. You could opt to use the Mizani Thermosmooth system. Mizani Thermosmooth system comes with a shampoo and conditioner, which will be your step 1 and your step 2. And then you have the styling serum, which is your step 3 product. And then you have a finishing spray, which will be used to add shine to the hair, and it's actually called an anti-humidity spritz. So that helps to protect the hair so that it doesn't revert back too quickly. So that is your other option. If you didn't necessarily have the Design Essential, or you didn't want to use the Design Essential product, your other option will be the Mizani products. That will be the next option that you have. Once we work out what products we're actually going to use, we need to work out any tools that are needed for this process. We know that we're definitely going to need to blow dry our hair, so we need to have a good hair dryer at hand. I've already covered blow drying techniques in regards to type 4 hair textures. If anyone needs to know exactly what tools you should have in terms of how to handle the dryer during the process of blow drying the hair, you can reference our hair tutorial on hair preparation and blow drying process for type 4 hair textures if you need to do that. For Janelle's hair, because we're aiming to do the silk press technique, for my blow drying, I will be going in with the fork attachment, and then I'm going to change that attachment and then go through the hair with a round brush or possibly a paddle brush. The silk press method, you're only going to achieve that if you achieve a maximum straight finish during your blow drying process. So this is why you need to alternate between the fork attachment and then using the paddle brush as well. I'll just show you guys what brush I'm using. So this is my paddle brush that I'm going to use to create the smoothing effect on the hair. Because Janelle's hair texture is slightly on the looser side, it's not as tightly coiled as some of our 4A, 4B, 4C hair texture. So I already know that when I start the blow drying process, hair has already made it a little bit more easier for me to quickly do this process because it's not tightly coiled. The hair is a little bit more straighter around these parts here. It's a little bit more curlier around the root area. So I can easily just go in with a round brush or a paddle brush without necessarily using the fork attachment. But the tighter the curls or the coils are, you're going to have to go in with a fork attachment first and then proceed with a paddle brush. So those are your tools for your blow drying process. You definitely need to have a good amount of section clips because we're going to work that hair in sections. You're going to need to have some combs as well. I will be using my wide tooth styling comb, my pintail comb, and also my cutting comb as well. At any given stage when I'm doing my sectioning, I'm likely going to go in with my pintail comb. At some point when I'm doing the actual straightening of the hair, I might alternate between the cutting comb and the pintail comb, but most of the time I prefer to use my pintail comb because it's easier to just go in and do the sectioning of the hair as well. Always make sure that the hair is completely detangled before you start the process. If you work in film, TV and theatre and you're having to do this hair styling technique, chances are the person would have come in with their hair shampooed and conditioned already, and all you're doing is the dry styling. You don't have to wet the hair down. We don't need to spray down the hair to make it wet before we blow dry the hair. You just need to apply your product. So if you're using the blow drying primer by Design Essential, that is going to be lightly misted over the hair. You're going to proceed and blow dry the hair. If you're just going in straight away with the serums that I've already shown you guys that I'll be using, you just apply that straight onto the hair, you section the hair, and then you start the blow drying and smoothing out process in the hair. For the actual straightening process, I would be using my Cloud 9 straighteners. So I always prefer to use more the wide plate straighteners, especially when we're working with type 4 hair textures. We want to make sure that we get that maximum heat, and it makes it easier because you can work in slightly bigger section without worrying that you're not getting that even straightness that we want. So I use my Cloud 9 straighteners, the wide plate ones. You have the option of using the regular size straighteners, but I find it more quick and more efficient, if you like, to use more the wide plate straighteners. And I find the heat distribution is a little bit more, because the silk press styling process, it does require a little bit more time. You have to go through the blow drying and smoothing, and then you have the first part where you're going to get that hair very, very straight. And then you go back in a second time where you actually put your final touch and styling to the hair as well. So there's about 3 steps that we take through this process here. Depending on the person's hair, the volume, the length of the hair will determine how long this is going to take. And also depending on your skills as a stylist. When you get to that point where you've done this styling technique for many, many times, you find that you start to work a little bit more quicker. You find ways to make your work more efficient so it doesn't take you as long as maybe the first time that you would have done this. So if we're doing this amount of hair similar to what we have on Janelle's hair, and the length that we have, the volume, the straightening process should take us about 45 minutes. So I'm going to have 20 minutes to just blow dry and smooth out the hair. It could be 20 minutes or less. So I just say 20 minutes to allow myself a little bit of room there, just in case, you know, it takes longer than 15 minutes if I said 15 minutes. So we'll say 20 minutes for the blow drying and smoothing. And then we need that 45 minutes to actually go through and do the first initial straightening of the hair. And then you possibly need another 15 minutes to do the final styling of the hair. If you're still quite new to Afro hairstyling and you're still learning how to do styling hair in general, then allow yourself a little bit more time. And for those of you who work in industries where you might not necessarily have a lot of time to do the styling, just keep in mind the first initial part of the process will require at least an hour to an hour and a half to do the full look. And then if you're doing any touch up in between, then because the hair is already quite straight, it's not going to take as long as the first initial time that you did it at the first time. So I'm going to be using my straighteners here, my Cloud9 straighteners, where we have the shorter hair and the baby hairs. We do want everything to be nice and straight. Because my straighteners are quite thick and bulky, I would not necessarily want to go too low because I don't want to burn Janelle's scalp. So I would go in with a smaller size straightener. So that's when I go in with my tiny micro straighteners. The other option would be if you have a hot comb, you can just go in with a hot comb and just smooth just around the edges there so that everything is nice and sleek, because we want to aim to get a very, very nice, sleek, straight finish on the silk press, because that's the reason why we're doing this type of look. Okay, so I think that's about all the tools, the products that we need to use. And again, I'll mention hair prep is very important. If you're a stylist in the salon, I would recommend that you watch our hair tutorial video on how to prepare your type 4 hair textures before you blow dry the hair. And I also mentioned about the process of blow drying, and also the shampooing and detangling as well is covered in that. And you just make sure that you use your shampoos. One thing I'll say is that you don't have to use the shampoos that actually come with the system, but it's always a good idea to follow all the steps. If you have the shampoo and conditioner, then by all means you're going to use that, but you don't have to feel that you have to use it. If you have a really good shampoo that is moisturizing and conditioning, and that is going to get that hair clean, you can go ahead and use that shampoo and conditioner, but then you have to definitely follow through with the serums. One thing I want to emphasize is that whenever we're doing this method, because we want that hair to be straight, we want the hair to have a very lightweight movement. The reason why we're doing this is we want to create the opposite effect of what we have with tightly coiled hair. We want the hair to be straight and have movement. If you put any other product apart from the serums, so I'm talking about any moisturizing creams, any styling creams, they're just literally going to weight the hair down, create a lot of build-up, and it's not going to create the movement that we want to see. So that's why you can only use the serums that are designed for the silk press technique. So make sure you're using the right serums, and it's not just any serum, they have to be specifically designed for this method of styling. So that's just one thing I want to emphasize, is to make sure you use the right products that are designed for this process of styling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start preparing Janelle's hair. I do have to blow dry and smooth out the hair, so I'll be applying my serum onto the hair, sectioning the hair into 4 sections, and then going ahead with my fork attachment first, and then smoothing it out with a paddle brush to get that really nice straight finish, focusing on the roots to make sure the roots are not left curly or wavy. We want everything to be nice and straight, because the straighter the hair is, the quicker the process of straightening is actually going to be for the hair. So I'm just going to go ahead and prepare her hair and then get started with that.